Well, our guests today are a dynamic couple who've been married happily for over 28 years and have spent much of that time writing books and holding conferences to help meet the needs of couples. Bill and Pam Farrel have co-authored a pile of books, over 26 in fact. Books like Every Marriage is a Fixer-Upper, Love, Honor, and Forgive, Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti, and their latest title, The First 5 Years, Make the Love Investment That Lasts a Lifetime. Please welcome to Full Circle, all the way from San Diego, California, Bill and Pam Farrel.
Hi.
Welcome.
It's great to be here.
Good to have you. Sorry about the cold. Got to apologize.
Oh, we love it. It's a treat for us.
Yeah, okay.
When you don't live in it, it's fun.
Yeah, and then you can go home.
You don't shovel it.
Yeah, exactly. Or slip on it.
That's right.
Now, you guys have written so many books to help couples and their relational skills. And now, this is for newlyweds, because I read in your book that there's a statistic that says 20% of all marriages end in the first 5 years.
Right, they're ending before they're even getting off the ground. It's heartbreaking. Like the studies prior to this, midlife was the big time when it was at risk for a divorce. And that makes a lot of sense because you have kids and teenagers and you're paying for college and you got a husband in midlife crisis and you're caring for aging parents, and so there's a lot of demands, so you can at least understand why it might become frustrating. But newlyweds, that's supposed to be like, oh, bells and whistles and fireworks time. But we're
Isn't that right, Melinda?
Yes.
Yeah, Melinda, we're
There is. Bells and whistles every day.
I wonder if one of the biggest problems is what you highlight early in the book. I love your term, success net.
Yes.
What is the success net, and why don't couples have it today?
We do really encourage couples to have a success net of relationships that will support them during those first 5 years of marriage.
And that would include parents, grandparents, and then advisors, financial advisors, relationship advisors, parenting advisors, so when you become a parent. And what's happened with the breakdown of the family is so many people don't have that. You know, they look at their parents' marriage and say, well, that didn't work. And then often they look at their grandparents' marriage and say, well, that didn't work. And there's this sense of embarrassment on everybody's part that we didn't do it right, so we don't really have advice for you. Oh. And as a result, we have all these disconnected people out there trying to figure out their relationships, and they don't know what to expect, they don't know what the skills involved are, and they don't know who to go to.
Our men are not mentored.
Right.
The women often haven't had a model.
You two did not have a model when you got married.
Right, we were the first people in our families to come to know Jesus, and then also my parents were divorced. The first time my parents saw each other was at our wedding after the divorce. So tension.
And my mom's very afraid of most things in life, and was afraid of the wedding, didn't come to the wedding. And so when we got married, we knew two things. We love Jesus, and we don't know what to do.
Way to start off the marriage.
But Bill, he was so great. We would go to church on Sunday, and he would stand in the back, and he would look for couples that were like 40, 50, 60, that were kind of sitting close to each other, you know, and acting like they loved each other. He'd park us right behind them. And then during the greeting time, he would introduce us, and he had this knack for getting invited out to lunch. It was great because we were like totally broke newlyweds. So we go out to this lunch, and we would just grill these wonderful mentor couples and ask them, how did you survive, what really works? And a lot of wonderful people helped build into our lives.
You know, I've got to tell you, this week Pete and I read through this book, and it was really great. We were in bed, and I was opening up the book and reading things, and it got some good conversation, but quite a good conversation. And the one part that really struck us, especially because we're a year and a half into marriage, so this is perfect for us. And the one thing that struck was, you say in here that the two things that can steal intimacy in a marriage, a recent marriage, is control and selfishness. And women tend to be controlling, and men tend to be selfish. Now that was an interesting discussion. We discussed that for a while because he didn't like being selfish, and I had to kind of struggle through being controlling, and then I told him that I was not controlling. But anyway, I think that's really interesting to talk about, because that really says a lot about women and men.
It does. You know, and in the first 5 years of marriage, we have this acrostic called GIFT that explains the 4 things that every couple needs for a good foundation. And you mentioned the first one. G is get in the game. Figure out that there's certain ways that we're wired. And, you know, women, just because of the fall, you know, we we want to be controlling. It goes way back when. It's kind of built into the DNA, and we don't like it about ourselves. And it's good that we just own it. Like, it's nice that you just owned it, because then you can go forward.
And the upside of that is that you ladies are really good at having your whole life in front of you. Like, you can process it all at the same time.
This is the spaghetti bit.
Yeah, we can
That's a
process
very
it, yeah.
revolutionary concept,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Can you just take a moment and do the waffle spaghetti?
Sure.
Some who don't know that.
Okay, men are like waffles. If you diagram the way a man processes life, it looks like the top of a waffle. Bunch of boxes all separated from walls, and first issue goes in the first box, second goes in the second box, third goes in the third box, and we do one thing at a time. So when we're at work, we're at work. And when we're in the yard, we're in the yard. And when we're watching TV,
And I have to add, a friend of mine read this book and it really helped their marriage. But he told me, he's like, there is actually a compartment of I'm not thinking about anything.
Yes.
absolutely.
And women don't
That's
believe it.
weird
We
to
don't.
me.
We think that's impossible.
Right.
You can't possibly not thinking of anything.
might be impossible for you.
Yeah.
Very possible for me.
With the spaghetti, we bring everything to everything.
Everything together, yeah.
We got a lot going
Connect
on.
it all together.
And you want to get it all right.
And so that's
And so the-
control. So
right.
was that the control
and,
part?
And as men, yes, as men, we only like to go to boxes we succeed in. The ones we're not good at, we want to avoid. That's why we're prone to selfishness, because we only want to address the things we're good at. We want to ignore everything else.
Little self-protection
Ooh,
going
like
on
that.
there.
I get
Very much
that.
so.
Yeah.
Well,
I hate to admit it, but very much so.
I had a question. I mean, I'm the only single person here, so I guess, this book isn't necessarily written for me. But we were talking about in the green room that what you do in your single life will really impact your first 5 years.
Well,
What
it
is that?
does. Really part of the reason that we had to write the first 5 years of marriage is because when you are dating as a single person, if you're really proactive and you get pre-engagement counseling, like if you're dating somebody seriously and you go in for some pre-engagement counseling or you read some books, and then you do premarital counseling, you really build a great foundation into your relationship from the moment you say I do. But so many people nowadays don't do that. And so they come into marriage thinking it'll all just be easy, I won't have to work at it. I can't believe we're arguing and we've only been married a week, and it just freaks them out. And so a wise single person will actually build into their relationships as they progress.
And one of the things that is not obvious early on is that marriage is about purpose. God brings two people together because he wants to develop a purpose in their marriage. We get married because we're attracted, we get married because we're fascinated, we're like, wow, I'm going to be happy with this person the rest of my life, which we hope happens. But the reality is there's a purpose in every marriage. Well, as a single person, if you learn to have purpose as a single individual, then you bring that to the marriage, and it's much easier to make the adjustment. And if you're growing as a single person, marriage requires growth. Those of us who've been married for a while, we're different people. 15, 20 years into it. Well, if growth is normal for you as a single person, it's easier to have a great marriage if God calls you to that.
And you'll be much more interesting.
Exactly.
You know what?